Welcome to another edition of the Roll Toddy video draft blog. We're going to do our rookies of the year and our late round sleepers who we think will make a big impact this year. I'm Baker Lehman here with Herbie May. We've taken a little bit of a break here during the summer with all of the job stuff we've had to do.
The real world is it's legit. It gets in the way. You're going out to Chicago this Wednesday. I've been in Charlotte for a week, and while really all we want to do is talk football our entire lives, we have to work and make a living.
We have to work so that later we can talk about football.
Until we can get paid for this, we have to get paid doing other things.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. But like I said, we're going to start off with our rookies of the year, offensive and defense. So let's start on the defensive side of the ball since a defensive player went number one. My pick is that number one overall pick. I think it's going to be Jadeveon Clowney. I think with him playing next to, on the other side of, or even playing over J.J. Watt, and a great Texans defense that's filled with talent, a lot of different parts of the defense, I think there's no reason that he doesn't win Defensive Rookie of the Year and should have a stellar season for the Texans and really cement himself as that number one player and number one prospect he was all year.
Yeah, this is like the guy that everyone wants to put as the Rookie of the Year just because, on paper, it should happen. I like the pick, just not the guy that I'm going to take, just because I think maybe the switching the schemes might bring him down a notch for a season. It's tough to gauge, but I love Jadeveon in that system. I love that they're going to do things with him that probably no one's ever seen before, and I think going to Houston and joining J.J. Watt in that defensive unit is it's just going to be deadly. So I'm on your side. I hope he wins Rookie of the Year because that would be cool to see.
Just for me, I think he's going to get used a lot like Jarvis Jones was used at Georgia, and as I expect him to be used in Pittsburgh very soon here, and that is with just moving him and being a rusher and a run stuffer from every position possible, whether it's having his hand in the dirt or having him on 2 feet. And I think he has more than enough athleticism to rush up the middle, rush from the edge, rush with the hand in the dirt like we've seen in the last 3 years. I just think he's going to be a great all-around player for Houston.
I agree. There's really nothing wrong about that pick either way. I went a different route. My defensive player, I went with Ryan Shazier. He's a guy that I've liked throughout this whole draft. I know it's tough to pick a Steeler, dude, and I actually have another Steeler as my late round guy in a second. But so it pains me to say it, but I think the pair of him with the senior leadership that he has on that team. Plus, the new up-and-comers. You got Jarvis Jones in that defense as well. Ryan Shazier is just kind of a wiry, fast player, in on every tackle. Do whatever you can to get the ball carrier to the ground. I love the way he plays. I love watching him. I love Big Ten linebackers. I think they're really fun to watch, and they come from a great league. So I think that this kid's got nowhere to go but up. And I think that the cast that he's coming into and the defensive kind of history that is going to be surrounding him is just nothing but good for him. So I'm excited. While I'm not excited to play him twice a year, I'm excited to see him as a player.
I'm a little shocked you didn't go with C.J. Mosley. I've watched him for 4 years. You're about to watch him for a lot more. So, but similar player, but Shazier, I think he's a good system fit in Pittsburgh. Athletic, rangy guy. They love having a coverage linebacker in there. He had a lot of success playing in a 4-3 at Ohio State. I think he'll have a lot of success playing the inside linebacker position in Pittsburgh. But who's your offensive guy now, Herbie?
Guys just don't agree with me on this, and I don't know. There's so much has changed, but I'm going to stick with Teddy Bridgewater, and I'll tell you why. I just think that Mike Zimmer has a really good plan for him, and I think that they're not going to come in there and make him anything that he's not. I think they're fully accepting of the player that he is and what he can and can't do, and obviously I don't think you give him the starting job right away. I think you let him take it from Christian Ponder, which shouldn't be hard. And I think you come in and you've got a great cast around you. So I think that he's just this kid that's got this poise to him that I really like in the NFL, and a kid who's just an absolute sponge, wants to do nothing but make his mom happy. So he'll do anything that the coach says, and I think he's the type of player that you want to build your organization around right now. And Christian Ponder was obviously such a stretch, but I think that he's a guy that's going to flourish in this league. And I had him as my number 3 pick in the draft this year, and I still stand by it. So I think Teddy could pull it out.
I want to pick Teddy too. I think he's a perfect fit, but I think that I still, like I said before in some of our other videos, I want to see him gain, another 15 pounds. And so that strength really comes in. He can take the NFL hits. He can use his legs if he needs to. I'm going to go with Brandon Cooks, the wide receiver for the Saints.
Oh, okay.
Who from Oregon State. I just think he's such a perfect weapon for Drew Brees in an offense that's needed, a little explosive help outside of Marcus Colston and Jimmy Graham. Yes, they have a pretty good running game with Mark Ingram, Pierre Thomas, and now they have Sproles, but they don't really need him at this point. I think Cooks can be a guy who, you can give the end around to, throw the screen pass to. He runs great routes, not scared of the middle despite his size. I think he's a very Steve Smith-esque wide receiver, and I think that's going to really give him a great career. And who better to throw you the ball than Drew Brees? I mean, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, one of the most consistent passers in the NFL. He's going to have no problem throwing to Brandon Cooks at 5'9" or 5'8", whatever exact size he is. And I think it's just going to be a great marriage between those two. And I think going to, a playoff team and a team that's probably going to be a Super Bowl contender this year is really going to help his confidence. I think he's going to play early and often, get a lot of catches, get a lot of targets, and make a lot of big plays this year for New Orleans.
Yeah, I sit here and I hear you say that, and then I'm like, gosh, how many players could we probably debate in that first round have a potential to maybe be rookie of the year? It was such a deep draft and such quality all around. But I think you're right. I think that marriage is perfect. Like you said, who else do you want throwing the ball to you besides Drew Brees? And just like that small, shifty type player, you can put him all over the field and do build packages around him. And I think he's going to kill it in that division. And I think you're right. I think he's coming from a strong Big 12 team, and he's coming to a Super Bowl contending team, and I think he's going to get the experience that he needs quick. And I think he'll be really good. I like that pick a lot.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to our sleeper drafts. Just like Marcus Colston, who I just mentioned for the Saints, generally every year there's some player who's drafted, 5th round and later, who just comes in, becomes a starter, becomes a star, becomes one of the more consistent players of the team, someone who you just didn't really expect to be there, really helps your team out down the line. And we're going to pick an offensive and defensive player for this as well. So, Herbie, let's start off. Who's your offensive player to be, I guess, the sleeper pick for this year?
So this is a player that I've liked, and I think he went in the perfect spot, and I think he's going to the perfect situation. I've got Storm Johnson down.
I almost picked Storm, so that's a good pick.
Hey, did you pick him too?
No, I didn't. I almost did.
Oh, no, yeah, I picked Storm Johnson. I think, when you're coming into this situation, I think Jacksonville is in such a good spot. They've got all these young weapons coming in who are all about to just get on the same page. Blake Bortles is a great leader, and he's played with Blake at UCF, and I think he's kind of a big-bodied guy. He can do a couple things with him. Obviously, he's not shifty. He's not, he's kind of your 5-yard down back. So I like his power, and I like the team. I like what he's going into. Like sorry, I can't even talk today. I like the cast that he's coming into. I think that he's got the perfect opportunity to succeed with the guys that he has around him. And Maurice Jones-Drew is gone, so he's got an opportunity to come in and do a couple things. And I think he's a good player. I think he got Jacksonville got some good value there in I think it was the 7th round.
I think he's a guy who can come in, pass protect, catch the ball. He could potentially be a 3-down back somewhere down the line. Yes, they signed Toby Gerhart to basically replace Maurice Jones-Drew. They have Denard Robinson on the roster, who apparently has made a lot of strides from converting to quarterback at Michigan to now pretty much being a running back full time. I think those three can all come together and contribute to Jacksonville. Storm Johnson, obviously playing with his quarterback, Blake Bortles, is going to help. But he's a guy who can catch the ball in the backfield. He's okay in pass protection. Needs some work, obviously. Not necessarily explosive, but a guy who's going to run hard for you, has great vision, can make some good cuts in the open field. I think Storm Johnson's going to be a quality pick for Jacksonville as well. Mine is Jared Abbrederis, the wide receiver from Wisconsin, taken by the Packers with the last pick of the 5th round. A guy who absolutely burned Bradley Roby, who's a first-round pick for the Broncos out of Ohio State. Absolutely burned him in that Ohio State-Wisconsin game. Just took him to town, had over 210 catches, over 200 yards. Just a guy who is pretty much going to be either inside or outside, a possession receiver who runs good routes, makes smart plays. Obviously not the elite athlete you necessarily want. That's why he's a 5th-round pick. But I think a guy who's just a smart wide receiver, blocks well, has solid size, not great, but not bad either, and is just going to come into a perfect system for him, that spread passing offense, and another guy who just is going to have a great quarterback throwing to him in Aaron Rodgers. And, Green Bay always seems to find these late-round wide receiver steals or mid-round wide receiver steals, and I think it's just going to be a great fit for Abbrederis playing in his home state, in his home, basically what is his hometown team. I think he's going to end up catching a lot of passes from Aaron Rodgers, and a team who, for as good as their offense is, need some wide receiver help. Outside of Jordy Nelson, they don't have a ton, and Randall Cobb as well. But I think besides those two, losing James Jones this year, they're really going to be happy to have this kind of wide receiver help, getting it this late in the draft, and he's going to have a big year.
Yeah, I think a lot of the ways you talk about these late round guys, I think a lot of it comes down to fit and schemes and where these guys are going to be comfortable. Obviously, taking the hometown guy, or the home state, where you play college in Wisconsin, I think that's that has a lot to do with coming in and being comfortable. You can play in the cold, and you're coming from a great quarterback, and you're coming into a great quarterback. So I like that pick a lot.
Coming from having the seasons that he did. And after, 2 years removed from having Russell Wilson as your quarterback, last 2 years he's great, and he's had no quarterback. So I think that it's only going to be, and he's had great years. So I think guys who are going to be great.
I was tempted to actually I thought about picking Mike Campanaro, the kid that went to Baltimore. It kind of reminds me of the same. It's a fit thing. He went to Wake. He's from Baltimore. He's kind of just like a guy that is going to grind and make catches, and might be a practice squad player, but a guy that you want to hold on to your practice squad. So I like that pick a lot. I think that's a good call there, Shane.
Let's move back over to the defensive side of the ball. Who's a defensive guy who's going to be your late round steal, come in and make an impact?
I went with another Steeler, and I want to punch myself, but I went with Daniel McCullers. I think it was tough. It was tough because a couple red flags around him. He's a monster, and I think if you can control that size, and you can get him slim down a little bit, because he can just slim down a little bit. I think he can come in and he can make an impact, in Pittsburgh right away. I think that if you've got that size, then you go ahead and use it. And there's no doubt that they need help in that defensive line, and they definitely need a run stuffer, and he could definitely do it.
McCullers, we both seen him play at Tennessee. A 6'8", 340 pounds speaks for itself. You can't teach that kind of size. The guy had a lot of good push up the middle. I remember watching him for Tennessee this year. And last year, obviously, Bama crushed Tennessee on the ground and through the air. But overall, you cannot teach that kind of size. And the Steelers have made so much money and won so many titles with basing their defense, especially their defensive line and that 3-4 alignment, around just big, hardworking, mildly athletic guys late in the draft. And McCullers just looks like another guy who could be one of those late round guys. They got to make sure he stays at a playing weight that's suitable to keep him in the game at least 2 or 3 downs, and then just to make sure that his work ethic's there. That was kind of one of the flags on him. But I think if you're a defensive player, especially any kind of defensive lineman, and no matter where you get drafted, if you get drafted by the Steelers, you're pretty psyched.
Yeah, I think your major risk there is just weight. You've got to stay at playing weight. Those are the kind of guys, those freaks of size, they get lost in having like a free kitchen on tap in these new, NFL facilities, and they go to town, and next thing you know is they're even bigger. So I think he has an opportunity to come in and be a pretty good player for Pittsburgh, but it's got to be about keeping him in shape and keeping him in playing weight.
Yeah. For me on defense, it's going to be my boy, my good friend Vinny Cincinnati from Alabama. Late round steal. I wish he stayed really, really badly. But I think for the Saints, they got great value with him in the 5th round. I don't think a lot of people were looking at him because of that ACL tear he suffered this year, but he recovered in 5.5 months. Ran at the pro day, ran a 4.4 in his 40 at a pro day. I think the knee's healthy. I think getting him in the 5th round as a perfect fit. He's going to be a nickel safety starting out. Could eventually get maybe even some starting time down the line. My biggest thing with Vinny is Vinny's not the elite athlete at safety that a lot of people want and is really popular in the NFL in this day and age. But you're not going to find a better football family than the Cinceris, or at least very few are better than the Cinceris. You're not going to find a guy who's better coached coming out of Alabama, especially Nick Saban being the secondary guy that he is. And you're not going to find many defensive players at his age who have the football IQ that he has. Last year, Vinny lost his starting spot to HaHa Clinton-Dix on the national title team for 2013. And that wasn't because Vinny was bad. It was because he'd spent his entire life playing linebacker, and he was still learning the safety position. This season, Vinny had learned the safety position. He'd improved. No, he still doesn't have that quick first step that a lot of people like, but he is a smart guy, smart in coverage now, and now has great hands, great ball skills, very good at returning kicks. He returned interceptions. Returned 2 interceptions for touchdowns this year. I think he's going to be great in that Rob Ryan 3-4 defense, blitzing off the edge, dropping back into coverage, playing in the box. I think it's a great fit.
Yeah, what a steal in the 5th. I mean, you think about him and you see him playing on the best stage and with one of the best secondary coaches ever. It's I was shocked to see him go that late, but what a great fit for him to go to and he's got Jerry Spurd, who's now like his mentor. He's got a Pro Bowl mentor, and what a great guy to be side by side with. So, I mean, I think again, I think all 4 of these guys. We've talked about fit, and I think that has just so much to do with it here. And going to play in Rob Ryan's defense is going to be huge for him. So I love that player. Strong, really consistent. Nothing like too outstanding or crazy special about him, but just like a really, really consistent, strong player. And I like that pick a lot.
Yeah, well, I think the other biggest thing you have with Vinny is the intangibles. Just being able to be a leader on that secondary. Herbie, you and I were watching in the game. He hurt himself, but on that goal line, or I guess that red zone stand Alabama had on one of Ole Miss's first drives. I mean, Vinny, number 3, was running up and down trying to hype out the crowd, make the stadium louder, and ended up, shutting down Ole Miss, much to your dismay, much to my pleasure.
Thank you.
But you can't teach intangibles like that. Some people grow into them. And I think Vinny was really a guy with his family and his football background can grow into being a leader for New Orleans very quickly if he gets the proper playing time.
Yeah, I agree. I think there was all good picks.
Yeah, I think we. And then, like we've talked about, this draft was very deep. I'm sure there's even more guys that we can't even name who will end up making an impact. But that's going to be all for this video. Thanks for watching, and there's going to be more to come, guys.
Thanks, guys. We'll be around all summer. Hopefully we'll get to do this more often.
Mm-hmm.